That should have already been.
Oh yeah. There
Yeah.
you go.
All right. Hey, everybody.
Well,
It is Connections with Creators. I am the Raw Guy Podcasting Charles McFall. I'm here to help others be awesome. This is my Tyler Durden of a creator, Philip D. Keating, the imaginary nomad and most hated man in D&D.
hi everyone, it's me, Philip D, the imaginary nomad. Charles, what's going on, my dude?
Ah, man. Last week, I'll tell you, great show with Nick Lyle. We talked about a lot about mental health and working in your own life. And I recorded it as a Finding the Stories episode. So that's going to get edited in and produced lately. And Nick's going to come back. And we're actually going to do some, mental health drive-bys. Like you can come into the chat and ask the questions and be as specific or as general as you'd like to be. And we're going to break down, honestly, we're going to talk about religious trauma. We've both been through some similar experiences and how we dealt with it. All that's coming up in the future, but it's really great. So I say all that to say you can suck tonight and it's going to be okay because we had a great show last week. It's all right.
A par for the course. I'm not going to get... I would never raise my standards for the rock god of podcasting. No, I'm going to sit comfortably in the shit where in the seat that I'm at.
And honestly, I do want to tell people where they can find you. So if you really want to find joy, go to tyraburton.com. Don't look for this dude. Because that's that. Tonight we are, and just so you know, Phil is executive producer on Finding the Story. She and I have created a lot of things together. It's been a good road. So I was very happy when you were available to be 60% here because you are a lame duck with your wing and a sling. But that's all right. We're going to talk about how to get involved in your favorite con. And there's been some questions that have come up throughout the ages, if you will. How do we get involved in Dragon Con? I don't know. How do I get panels on my favorite con? All those, and I label it your favorite con because a lot of this information, if you follow through with it, it's going to be specific to my experiences at Dragon Con, but some of my experiences at other cons. But you can usually use it and put your own flavor on it and find a way to apply it to the convention you want to be in. So, babyface Phil. All right. You know what, Bean? I don't even know why I showed you. I don't even know why I should. Bean didn't come out for me. He won't come out. This is the first time he's been out since he's been on the show. He was on the show back in December, and now he only shows up for you, Bill.
Bill. Come on.
I'm sorry, I have a face dysmorphia thing. I don't recognize faces. Sorry.
That's fine. I've been called worse.
Yeah, and you also know the end of that joke. All right. So first things first, you got to refine what you want to do. If you want to be a panelist, you have to find a con that does that. Dragon Con is that place. Digital media track, all the tracks, basically, it's a Gary Vaynerchuk method of social media. When he wrote Crush It, when social media was first becoming a thing, the very simple answer was go to the community you want to be in and add value. You get on the message boards, you get on the social, you get on wherever the conversations are, and you say, here's some value to add. I can answer that. I can help you. I can guide you. Here's some experience that I've had. And then as you give value, they start seeing you, and then you get them to follow you somewhere else. So they start looking you up. And nowadays, that's very common, right? I can click on Bean's Forging Winton's link right here on Twitch and see his channel. Right.
Well, I mean, it goes through the old adverb of like stand-ups, right? You got to put your time in, right? You can't just run up to an open mic night and, expect to get, 15 minutes of time when nobody there knows you, right? But especially with Dragon Con, like a lot of these people start out as people that come to each panel and then they get sucked into the orbit and then want to get involved. And, I preached it all last year and I'll preach it again now. It's like we have an open free Discord with not only creators, but also other fans and other people that sit on these panels. So if you have an idea and you want to get involved, just get your voice heard. And, it's easier said than done, but like join conversations. Sure. There's micro communities inside of the Discord that we have there in the digital media track, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, say your thing is D&D or anime or role playing, board games, right? It's not just a Discord to talk about what we're going to do each year at the con. It's about building that community so that when we do go to con, not only are we putting on good shows, but it's almost like a family reunion where the entire Discord gets to see each other and hang out.
And to that point for the podcast, because that is the intent, our good friend TV's Travis has come on board with this particular production for the track and is cutting these into reels and into things. But he's also supposed to be making a podcast out of it each week. And so if you're on the podcast and you cannot see the broadcast, which is on YouTube and Facebook, it's Linktree, which is linktr.ee, right? If you're unfamiliar. So Linktree/DC Digital Media Track. Doesn't matter if you put capitalization or not, it'll take you there. So Linktree/DC Digital Media Track. It'll get you to the Discord. It'll get you to a bunch of different things that you can do. But that there was some quote or some teaching or some adage back in oh man, my early days. And I couldn't even tell you what decade that was. But basically showing up is like 90% of the work. Right? Now you got to be ready. Maybe not, maybe 90% was too high, but it was the idea of showing up is one of the keys to success. If you don't show up, you can't get involved. And so you do start with that digital media track, and you start helping others. You start doing content there, not content, but
But
interacting.
it's not even just showing up, right? Because in no matter what we do on the digital,
No, it's not
media,
just, but you got to start with it.
No. But what I'm saying is, like, no matter what we're doing on the digital side of media, if it is podcasting, Twitch streams, YouTube's, TikToks, Instagram Reel, the thing is also show up, but then also be consistent. Like, that's literally the two rules about digital creation. It's just show up on time and be consistent about what you're doing. So, like, show up consistently, get into the conversation consistently. If you see a hole that you think should be there, start the conversation around it and try to fill it.
Exactly. Jumping to the high end. I didn't become the digital media track director because they saw me on YouTube and they recruited me and hired me and brought me in. I showed up to do content to help others be awesome, to just see what it's all about. What can I get out of it? Oh, there's a place for me to ask questions. And in asking questions, I'm giving back. And I just got known for that. And then the track director at the time wanted me to do more and help more and got me to be a volunteer. And then beyond that, the steps went to where they went. Right. But that is it. And honestly, every last moderator I use and a lot of my what I would call go-to panelists are people that have shown up year after year, or at least made an impression the one year they were there. They go, oh, if you come back, I know where I can use you on. But I only ask Phil, do you want to be on these panels for courtesy of scheduling? Because I know he has stuff outside of the track that he does during the week. But I know, I know what he can bring to the table. I know where I can use him. I know what his strengths and weaknesses are.
And that's another thing, right? Because, like, I'm known in the podcasting world or the Twitch stream world for my comedy content, but I've diversified what I can actually do. So, like, I can jump on these comedy shows that I put on through DragonCon, but, like, speaking about mental health, super easy. I covered that, section of content creation. You need a secondhand man on talking to content creators and boosting, their signal. Easy. I can jump on finding the stories and try to raise awareness to different creators. It's all about, diversifying your digital media or yourself's resume, really. If you want to get into these kind of panels and these different cons, then you got to bring something more to the table the more years you show up. Because year one, I did a comedy panel and then a video game panel. And year two, I started getting into like the technical side of things because I was getting a little bit smarter and doing a little bit more research on my end. And then stuff just kind of opened up and blossomed from there.
I just getting too lost in the details and said, I think it doesn't matter. Your point is exactly what you just said. It is you came in to help. You did come in because key point is I need to know you, not personally, not we're best friends and only my friends get on panels. But I need to understand at least a little bit what you're going to bring to the table for me to put you not randomly, but on a panel Well, no, I mean, that would be it to let you do more. That's why I opened up the Discord the way I did, was to say, hey, I don't have the time to know everybody. And I don't want this all on my shoulders. I want this to become its own thing that I manage, basically, and lets that creativity of everybody come in every year. And we're going to talk about how I program because of that. But in that sense, we're talking about everything that matters to me. How you write your proposal, sometimes the energy on it is like, you know what? I like this title. I like maybe I don't understand what you're going to bring with this title, this description, but
Normally,
there's
like
something about the
Gilligan's
energy.
Island-esque energy,
Yeah, because if I hadn't already married you, I wouldn't have brought you in every year as boss. I'm sorry. No,
That's fine.
no, be funny though. Truthfully, Botch does a great job. That's why you get to do a room each year. So all that being said, there's definitely a lot of trust I have to put into everything's going to work out. And I may be using this term incorrectly, but I definitely program holistically. I just vibes, some energy, some ideas of where I know I want to go. I do try to vet as best I can. Do I kind of go look at some of your work, see what you've done, kind of get a feel for who you are, what you do. But it definitely helps out if you've come to panels, you've asked a question. If you've come into the Discord and introduced yourself and talked with people. Some people have really got on the panels because they DM me and they explain, hey, I'd love to be on this panel because XYZ. And sometimes I'm like, hey, this is all for example. Hey, that's Phil's panel. DM him and say the same thing, and I'm pretty sure you'll be okay. Sometimes this panels I do control, and I go, okay, here's why I will or won't use you. But hey, you asked for this, but I think you'd be good on that type of deal. So it's a lot of trust. Here's how the process goes. You submit a panel, and that's all I get. We're gonna go down the questions super quickly, just so I can stupid things making put my email.
Well, here as you type away, what he was saying, what Charles was saying was like, just submit a panel, right? If you have an idea or you see something that wasn't on the track from last year that you think you would be great at spearheading, submit a panel. Just submit it, right? Because what talks to you and it was important to you maybe is not important to me, but that panel could work very well. But also, that panel could get bounced back and not picked up that year.
Baby.
And it doesn't mean that it's a bad panel, right? It just means that, either right now we either have a full schedule, we already have a panel on the schedule that's kind of close to that, or, it's just not a good fit this year. And to be honest with you, a panel that I submitted 2 years ago didn't make the cut. It got bounced back. And so
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, How to Hate Yourself Better.
Oh yeah, I hated that title.
It was, and look, it was a bad title. It was a great concept, but a bad title. And so what me and Steven Adams did was we were bummed about it. We licked our wounds, and then after the con happened, we got back into the chairs and said, okay, what can we change about this panel submission that would make it more enticing to be picked up next year? And so me and him kept going back and forth and changing and tweaking and doing all that. And that was the imposter syndrome panel that was approved last year. It was the same panel. We tweaked a little bit of things. We changed the name, which was a great name hated by a dumb person. But just because your panel doesn't make it through the first round doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just could use a little tweaking, or just it's not the year for it.
That is very well said. I want to tell a little bit of story of what drives me to program, to put together the best show possible. Early on in podcasting, I've been in since the very, very early days, but there have definitely been a handful of people that were there before me. That were big and made splashes, and that we all made an impact and helped build what it is today, type of deal. One of those guys built a network, and I once I got hooked into podcasting and then digital media, I was like, you know what, this is my life, this is my career. So I want to work with other people. I want to build up. I want to take opportunities. So I looked at his network, 12 shows on his network.
It's the
all
giant-sized team-up network.
this one was better, or ours was better. I mean, but no, his was all 12 shows hosted by him, every last one of them, and he had different co-hosts or whatever. Every last one of them was him. And then early days, Blog World, which I don't even think is around anymore. Blog World was about blogging, and podcasting was just coming out. So podcasting had kind of started with them. And so as far as a con went, and so Blog World went, hey, we'll give you a track. So there was a podcasting track at Blog World that later became New Media Expo for the whole thing. And this guy became the program director, like I do for the digital media track. He did it for them. You know who got the majority of the panelists? Either celebrities, which sometimes is fair. You got to put asses in seats. I get that. And be honest, I would like to hear what ESPN is saying at the time about podcasting and what they're doing with it. Fair enough. Or not his friends, the people who paid him to learn how to podcast got panels. He did basically a podcasting 101, how to get started. That panel, for lack of better words, because I come from a church background, was a testimony. Well, basically, this was my life, and this is how hard it was. And I was at rock bottom and so frustrated, and podcasting Christ came and saved my soul. And here I am today. And I mean, I'm not kidding. He didn't say podcasting Christ, but he said podcasting. And essentially, that was his story of how he got saved. Yeah, there you go. The Mothman Project.
It's the prophecies.
Prophecies, sorry. And then the rest of his story was, I accidentally was in the right place because I did a Lost podcast. And then when the show Lost decided to do a podcast, they had to make it something else. It didn't make sense because he had already had the name.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's getting thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads thinking this is the official podcast. And then he just kind of blew up from there. That's not a success story. That's not podcasting.
It's kind of how Botched happened. Everyone thought it was a show about messed up plastic surgeries, and we just kind of
I just went for the
we just rolled with
it.
Yeah, yeah, kind of.
So that's why I'm like, you know what? This will never, this being anything I create, but specifically the digital media track, this will never be the Charles McFall show. It will never be my friends. Only my friends are on it. It'll never be only what I want to see. It will be what everybody can come together and make it. And that is why I absolutely refuse to make a panel and hope people show up. Okay. Imposter syndrome. Well, one, I could never make that panel up because I don't have that. I don't understand. I mean, mentally, I get the process, but I don't.
You're a narcissist.
Heart, I don't understand.
Yeah,
it.
no, I got
you. No, I'm a God among men. Get it right.
Yeah. You're a dog among men. You're dyslexic and you just switch the letters.
Damn, I was like, you're dyslexic.
I am. That's why I get to make that joke.
Yeah. Okay. Back that thing up. All right. So in that vein, one of the questions that has been posed is, how do I get a panel up there that I don't see represented on any of the schedules? And the honest answer is there's two things. Oh, I like that one from Kurt Rock, Dog of Narcissism. Two things have to happen. One, you need to submit it. You need to put the idea out there. There's a room in our Discord that's panel ideas. Throw it out there. I guarantee you somebody thinks the way you think. And you might go, I don't want to moderate. And I get that sometimes. I get, hey, I'd love to see this panel. I don't want to moderate it, but I'd like to see it. And usually, because I make you submit an email with your submission, I usually contact that person and say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. What I need you to do is the work. You don't have to moderate it. You don't even have to be on it. But you obviously have an idea and a vision for what it should be. I need you in the Discord talking about that and seeing who you can get to pick up the idea and understand what needs to be seen. Because, yeah, I understand how important it is to have the awesome women of digital media. I didn't create that panel. I just brought it to Dragon Con. Other awesome women created that panel at another convention, and I thought it was very important. I just made a way for awesome women to do it and run it. And every year, some awesome women like Chelsea Bites and others. I loved this panel last year. I think you need to do it. I'm willing to be on it. It gets submitted 2 or 3 times each year. Love it. Love the passion. Cool. I'll make a way. I know how important it is to have blurred panels. For those of you on the podcast, I might identify as black in my soul, but I am white on my skin. So there's and while I definitely grew up poor and I have some connections to the community, I did not grow up with the same things you grew up with.
Yeah.
I'm not a blurred. I don't have that different experience. I cannot represent that. And it is appalling to me. It is and this might be on me, Phil, and this one I want you to kind of feedback on. It is almost horrifying idea to me for me to go, I think this needs to be here. I'm going to make it, and I'm just going to hope that somebody shows up. Now, I don't mean just hope and pray and cross my fingers, but throw it in to the Discord. But I'm just going to hope that the right people will do this the right way, because I am protective of what we do. And we'll talk about that later. But how other than just telling somebody to do the work, how do you think we can bridge that gap aside from something I will never do, which is just put it up there and go, hey guys, come fill this panel?
No, because I feel like that's the old way. That was how this track was ran before you took over, right? Maybe.
Sure. I don't know.
But what I would suggest doing, right, is looking at, because all of our panels, all the way from 2020, the digital con that we had, everything is still available. The schedule is still available. Everything is still available, right? So I would just suggest, if you are seriously thinking about submitting a panel, look at what has already been done. See, what is missing. What can you bring that's new and fresh, and submit it. Now, Charles, are we still doing the autopilot program where you could bring a panel to Tyra and she would let you do it on the channel to see how it goes?
Oh, yeah. The takeovers is what we call that.
Yeah, the takeovers.
And to that end, here's a side note, because Sarah is in here and she's wanting to do a takeover somewhat soon, but she's not sure she'll have the people she needs. She wants somebody to talk to. That's along the lines of submitting a panel. Same way with the takeover. And yeah, come try it here. See how it goes for sure. But we will provide somebody to talk with you if you need, just like I would on a real panel. You will have smart people who know how to create content, who can speak intelligently on the topic. Or if you've got all the people, you'll still have, just like you would on a real panel, a tech person behind the scenes making sure the stream goes. And if you got it, you got it. You don't need us.
But also, like you were saying, I might not fit into your panel idea, but it doesn't mean you can't bounce ideas off of me, because I have, or most of the creators here in the digital media track, it may not be our avenue of expertise, but definitely being creative and bouncing ideas and helping mold your idea. Everybody's great at that. I've reached out to people that have nothing to do with the panels that I want to create, and just say, hey, what do you think about this? Does this work? No? Can you help me kind of smooth the edges out so that when we do hit live, it runs as smoothly as possible, right? But also, if you are going to do the autopilot program, the takeovers, as we're calling it here, which is a terrible. We could brand that better.
No, autopilot's better. Oh yeah, it's just going to run on its own. Nothing runs on its own.
Pilot program. It's a pilot. You're doing a pilot for the actual panel at DragonCon. It's all right. You're not an ideas man, like you've already said.
I never said that.
It shows in your work. What you can do though is have your friends and your family and other creators come in to watch that, and have them give you feedback on how you're doing, what you would change, because we still do that. Even with my friends who have their own panels down at DragonCon, once we get off stage and everything's kind of simmers down a bit, they'll say, how was this? It was good, but this is little tweaks that I would make between this year and next year that would help your panel take it from a 7 to a 9. And it's about that constructive criticism that, is there to help build you and build your panel. So you kind of got to drop that, as I call it, ego. You got to have ego death, because people are not here to attack you. They really only want, to build a stronger track together. And I'm always open to help people, give criticism or constructive
Yeah.
criticism, because really at the end of the day, I just want this to be a stronger track for everybody.
And we're already bringing more clarity to the situation, because Sarah even says she thought that I wanted her to talk about what we're doing, which is fair. See, here's the thing. That's fair because it's hard for me to explain a takeover, an autopilot, whatever test run. I don't care what you call it. But when we don't have that very often, so it's not like, oh, I see that every other week and know what it looks like. You see me talking to somebody else, right? And that, because that's what I do. That's what I always do. I talk to people and I get their stories and I bring it out. But yeah, exactly what Phil said. If I don't know you, you've got to do one of two things if you want your freedom to create on this track. You got to come sit like Phil is and just let me interview you and show me who you are, or come put on a panel here on this stream with up to, I think, 10 people, but I wouldn't recommend that. Five plus you is really the max you should do, just like a real panel. 6 is the max. And show us what that panel looks like, because not only does it let me know, oh, now I've gotten to know Sarah through chats and through talking on Discord and this and that and the other. But if it's somebody I just don't know, that's the easiest way for me to learn you and go, yeah. Now I understand. Now I understand, Phil, how to hate yourself better, what you really mean by that. And here's some feedback. How about we tweak the title? How about we change it? It lets us see that. And then it lets other people see it. And then it also lets you go, just like Phil said, you did it live. How was it? All right. Well, if you're a decent creator, one, I hope you're a positive creator. By that I mean that felt great.
No. We will not preach that, because as somebody
yes, we will.
with imposter syndrome, everything that you create is garbage no matter what.
I muted his mic. Don't worry about it. So no.
We don't listen to our own lizard brains. We get the people that know better than ourselves to tell us how it actually went.
Okay. So then you get to the goal of what I want, which is you feel like it went well. Dude, so he may have started that way, but let me tell you something. The first year Botch played, homie went around kissing. This homie, Phil, went around kissing just about everybody.
More than that, I also had to eat mayonnaise live on stage.
Oh, that was gross. Yeah. Yes, you did.
Yeah, I did.
That started a very bad tradition that I really hate. But yeah, just like I hate your memes that you send me. So, but and every year after that, right after the show, you accept the crowd. If somebody asks you something, the crowd felt good, you felt good with the content, feel good in the moment, then yeah, we can do better. How do we do better? You come here and do the panel here on this channel. It gives you the opportunity to get it better before you even get to Dragon Con or any con, right? Any con. I back at the end of December, I test ran my crowd game, fandom face off, because I wanted to work out some of the kinks with people I trust in a format that I'm very comfortable in before I actually go live at a con where I don't know anybody. And that helped out for that. So it's really, really cool. All right. So all that being said, yes, do the panel takeovers. But beyond that, let's run down. Here's how you submit. Now you got to enter your name that you want listed, the website where I can see something you've done, suggesting it. And I say the suggested name of the panel. Phil, why do I say the suggested name of the panel?
Because it can change at any time. And sometimes your panel names are stupid, like how to hate yourself better.
Yeah. Sometimes they're too long because there's a character limit.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have something very similar. I have 2 or 3 very similar suggestions that I'll mesh together and put a title that I think fits on it. It's suggested because ultimately, while you hopefully feel like you're the expert on what you're bringing to the table, that's as far as your expertise goes. I have to see the 3,000-foot view of the entirety of the 60+ panels that we do, the theme of how DragonCon works things, the mix of content that goes on, and try my best to find a good balance and representation in all of it. So there's definitely going to be times that I take, there was 2 different panels that was basically Twitch streaming beyond video games. I took it was 2 half panelists. They had 2 panelists on one, 3 on another, put them both together, gave it a new name, and all 5 people got to do what they loved. Trust a process. So yeah, your title might get changed, which happened after the How to Hate Yourself Better. So Then I said, give us an awesome description, awesome panel description for the app. It needs to be 300 characters or less, because that is what we put in as the actual pitch for people to look at. Now, here's 2 things from Dragon Con. All right, who the hell is Random Kid? Because I thought they were my fan, but they're saying, why is Phil so handsome? Is this you as a YouTube account?
What? Stop it. Don't call me out on my BS live here on
I don't hate you. I don't hate you. All right. Give us an awesome panel description for the app. Because here's what DragonCon says. First off, you got to get don't be cutesy with your titles. I mean, you can. Imposter syndrome is great because you know what you're talking about. And sometimes it can be fun to have an entertaining panel. But if somebody doesn't understand, like I don't think I fully understood what y'all pitched with the how to hate yourself better, and then the pitch on it. But the title,
but also that's true, because on the boards that sit outside of each room, it's not going to have a description talking about imposter syndrome and all that, right? It's only going to be what your title is. And so now that you put it in that frame of light, right? I didn't think about this until right now. How to hate yourself better is such a stupid name.
But you had the heart and the intent, and that's
true.
You said ego has to take a death.
True.
Because you want to be able to present what you present.
Yeah.
But Dragon, it's on the app, and that's the title is the only thing that shows up until you touch on it. If you don't put something you want in that title for somebody to touch on to even read, the really limited description character limit that we have, it won't matter.
Yeah, it's just like eating, right? You eat with your eyes first, right? And with these panels, well, if the name's not catchy or if it doesn't make sense, then I'm not going to consume it.
100%. Case in point, Dragon Con, just by foot traffic, we can generate a decent amount of people in a room. We did Wise and Nerdy last year for the first time live, and we had, I don't know, 10 people in there. And some of them just didn't really know what they're getting into, and they stayed and they had fun, but it was kind of unclear. Went to Chattacon and refined it to add our tagline to the title, Wise and Nerdy, where fatherhood meets fandom. Now, scalable, right? 80,000 people at Dragon Con. I think there's 500 to 800 people at Chattacon. And it's an authors convention, not a podcast convention. So I didn't expect a whole lot of people to come out. People literally came in the room because they went, I'm a father and I'm in the fandom. I want to see what this is about. And that's all they saw. But by adding that tag, I pulled in the same amount of people, if not a little bit more, who are very interactive and played. It did a lot of bad dad jokes, which I hate, but they played. And it was a much greater show than in my home conference at DragonCon because I put in exactly what we do.
Speaking of dad jokes.
Nope.
Real quick. What's the difference between me and cancer?
Your dad didn't beat cancer. But
that's right, buddy.
All right. And that's too true. And I don't think he beat you, though.
No, I could outrun him at a very young age.
All right. So description matters, titles more. Now, I said, give me a pitch for how it benefit the audience. That is your unlimited character length. Well, I don't know. Google might limit it, but I try to make unlimited character length for you to tell me what you're really trying to accomplish with this.
It's your elevator
panel.
pitch.
Yes. And it's more characters than what you get in the app. And then I might come back and say, hey, we need to refine the pitch for the app, blah, 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 blah. But that helps me understand. What helps me better is come on here and just do it. Also, I don't want to, I love it, but I don't have the time to sit here every week and do this. I need more people to come in and do their thing. And I really would appreciate that. Then we say, please submit names of people you'd like to have on the panel in a perfect world. And I phrase it that way because the first time I ever submitted to DragonCon, I went, I don't know who the hell's going to DragonCon. Here's some names of some celebrities they're still celebrities, but they were big in podcasting, and I knew they were Tom Merritt, Veronica Belmont. I threw out all these names of people I knew would be there that I could play with and hold my own with. And I got the panel, and they did what I didn't know they were going to do. They gave me good panelists, but I had no idea. But it was a great idea, and they took it. So I say, because you don't know. You really don't know. If you go, hey, I really like Phil Keating on there. We've had somebody do that. They pitched a panel like, I really like Phil. I'm like, hey, Phil, read this. What do you think? And I think I don't remember what it was, but I think you actually did it. But there's a point where like, hey, I know Anson Mount's going to be there. Well, okay. The odds of you getting Anson Mount are slim. But if you go, hey, I know Roberto Blake's going to be there. Oh, now I can probably get you Roberto Blake to sit on a YouTube panel with you.
Yeah,
Who'd you sit with that you made the abortion joke?
Oh, that was
the McElroys?
No. That was Welcome to Night Vale.
Oh yeah, Symphony of Sanders.
Yes, and one of the McElroys, Travis, and then Brushwood and Jury. But yeah, I was definitely punching above my belt at that panel, and
but you weren't, and you did all right.
Well, I was I had a 1 hour panic attack while I was on that panel, so the only way to get everybody on my panic level was to tell that abortion joke. And, it hit 50-50, kind of like a coat hanger, but you take the win,
All right. So, by saying it, you can put a wish list because you don't know what magic we can pull out. You don't know what cool creators we have on Discord, but we do have that. So, when Phil pitches a pen, like Steven and Phil worked on the imposter syndrome. Well, I know Phil's a good moderator. Steven's a great moderator, and Phil's a great content creator. And because they were already teamed up on this, I'm like, okay, Steven's going to moderate. Phil, you're going to do this. And they actually filled that panel themselves because they're in Discord going, hey, the first announcement is the rough draft. Here are the panels that got approved so far. And I only list the moderator unless they say, like in that case, Steven Adams and Philip Keating, because I know you guys talk to each other. If you put names that you say, I know these people will be there, I will go ahead and add them to your panel. If they're a wish list, you need to make sure you say they're a wish list. And if you fill the panel, that's fine. You did the work. Great. But you can be just a moderator. And then when it gets announced, the people in our community, I even look at Discord to see how many people we have now, because it's pretty freaking awesome, to be honest with you. But there's so many good creators that we go, hey, I'm doing an imposter syndrome. Wouldn't you say, Phil? Y'all probably had more people volunteering than you could really ever fit at the table.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And it really came down to how. So for that one, it was how do we build a panel for panelists that can kind of completely fill the umbrella, right? Because everybody on that panel had a different flavor of the imposter syndrome, right? And we did have to unfortunately kind of turn people away, but it was nice to be able to have a good swath of people to be able to build that panel fully, right? And that's not standard. And I know for a fact, like,
I'm gonna argue with you. In our community, it's standard.
It was really dope to be able to, like, okay, yes, Bean can fit this and he can talk about this avenue. Swan, perfect. Like, she can talk from this avenue. Steven and I, we play very well together, but we are the counter opposites on our personalities and how we deal with depression and anxiety and all of that. So, like, we knew that we could build this panel with wonderful humans. And the people that we didn't pick are also wonderful humans and would have done just as good. But it was building the right panel and picking the right people for the right panel. And so
trusting your instincts.
True, right? And if we do pitch it again this year, we'll probably rotate out the panelists, right? Because those 3 or 4 panelists that we had up there with us, they had a great panel last year. Let's bring in some new creators to talk about how they deal with it, because even though there was 5 or 6 of us up there and it went really well, doesn't mean that it hit everybody specifically. And so if I have this panel that is kind of evergreen, because everybody has this little voice in the back of their head saying that they're not good enough to do what they're doing, even though they're good enough to do what they're doing, right? You don't get to sit on a panel at DragonCon talking to about 150 people if you're not good at what you're doing, right? But there's always that voice behind most creators' ears, unless they're a deity, saying that they don't deserve to be up there. So it's all about not only pitching, but molding the panel for that year. And it doesn't mean, like, if you do it again next year, just start over, flush it out, because you're going to have new points of views from new panelists next year,
Yeah. And honestly, by the time, so we're cutting off panel submissions by March 31st. That's in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks now. And it's early, but it's because one, I have to leave some room for last minute panels. You know, sometimes it's celebrity, sometimes like last year, legit, we did not have a blurred panel, and Tony was too busy because he knows how to build the blurred panel. He knows how to moderate. Tony is amazing. Tony P. Henderson. And for the the risk of being a meme myself, at Dragon Con, he's my black friend. He's the one that I know is a strong creator in the African American community that knows a show backwards and forwards. He knows when to quiet down and let somebody else take the light. He knows when to bring the introverts out and ask the questions. He knows how to do it. He's my trusted go-to guy. Last year, he was unavailable for a lot of those things. And so
I think he had 14 panels, which might be.
Well, he's gone up to the main stage. He's a moderator for the main stage. Yeah. So he did one or two, like he did Comedy for Cause. He did something else for digital media.
Can we touch on that real quick? Yeah. Like, yeah, Tony P. Henderson, best friend to everybody, right? Especially at the digital media track. Yeah. Really got his feet wet in the digital media track.
He got started because of the digital media track, more or less.
And now he's running the main stage at Dragon Con. If you went to Dragon Con last year and you were at any main stage panel and you watched that animated video that played before the panel started, not only did Tony animate that, he also narrated that, and he also is the moderator for a lot of the panels on the main stage there. So it's like, as little as this track seems to Dragon Con, which is funny, and I have my own ideas about that. It's funny how a lot of the people that end up moderating and getting out of the Hilton basement get their start in the minor league system that is the digital media track.
That's not a bad example. I don't like the idea of minor league because it's like an emotion, but a feeder system, right? And that's what it is. It's like, look, my goal is to flip content creators every 3 to 5 years and have the new blood coming up in that time. That means I want you to come in, get a panel, and maybe that's the only one you get to do that year. But I got to see it, got good feedback, whatever it is, made an impression. Let's do some more. Because I'm telling you, even though I don't see every panel, I definitely do not see every panel. I get feedback, not just through the app, but from my trusted content creating circle. Oh man, this one was great. We need to do. They feed back to me of going, here's how and everybody says we because they buy into the system. They buy into what we're doing. Here's how we can use them next year. So we see that. So do that. But the path for me, my hope for pretty much everybody that wants this path, come in, do a panel, do a couple more panels, do a couple more panels, and now you're good. And now you're going out to other track rooms.
And that's the thing, is getting into other tracks, because you know what? I'm not a director. I'll say it. Other tracks aren't as great as we are. And other tracks aren't as vocal and committed to the community as we are. And other tracks won't come out looking for you. But if you get your start here and you go to other tracks, they will take you in a heartbeat. Like my second year.
Okay. Caveat is sometimes people don't know how to get out of their own way. Sometimes they just get really busy and forget. So it's definitely not a guarantee, but it is.
But no, it's not a guarantee. But like I got a panel on the video game track that I got to build for myself because I started in the digital media track. And I had my resume of what I could do and how hard I'm going to work. And they were like, yeah, here's a 1,200 person room. Just do whatever you want with it. And it was great.
And go ahead, Kiwi. Sorry.
No.
You got me excited. That's all.
No,
it is great. Yeah.
I once again filled it with people, that I wanted there. I reached out to people that weren't going to Dragon Con, but lived in Atlanta to come in to do the panel with me and all that. And none of it really would have opened up if I didn't put my time in and start that first panel at the digital media track.
And the secret sauce in that was not that he knew me and I got him in. The secret sauce was he pitched a panel that was near and dear to his heart, that he knew that he could get at least one or two other people at the con that he knew for sure would be there to do it. And it turned out that track had nothing anywhere remotely near what that panel was. I think it was a Nintendo panel that year.
Yeah, hell yeah. It was a Nintendo panel.
Nobody was talking about Nintendo, and they were like, please and thank you. And it filled the room because all he did was do something that he loved. And
But
that is key.
But I also found something that the video game track didn't have.
But did
right?
you know that when you pitched
I
it?
did. I most certainly
Okay,
did.
there you go.
Because I looked at what they were doing last year, and the Switch came out that year, and they didn't have a Nintendo track or a Nintendo panel whatsoever. So it's just like, this is common sense. We need to build this, and they will come. I don't mean to Field of Dreams us, but
sure.
But it.
And here's the thing. I talked to him this year. It's led us down a path. There's a new director over there as of last year. Jason Gonding is his name. He's a cool guy. He sought me out at this last Dragon Con meeting. We had a good 10-minute powwow, exchange phone numbers. We're going to set up a time where he and I are literally going to get on a Zoom style call and share our schedules. Battle. Yes, right. Yes, right. I'm Abraham Lincoln. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
Is he a vampire? And you're going
to. You know what? You distract me, sir. Okay. I'm moving on. But basically, we are going to cross panels. We are going to, I've already talked to him about Pokédexpert and what the needs are and how I believe it, as much as I love it on my track, my limitations have been hit. I can't give Pokédexpert exactly what they need, but he can. And he's very wanting to be essentially co-create with us. You know, we'll have some cross panels. They'll host some stuff there. He's going to give us, or not give us, but say, hey, he told me about two big Twitch gamers that he's bringing in that he wants to let me use. And I knew one of them. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I knew one of them. The other one I wrote down.
Yeah, we can talk offline.
Yeah. But so that's the thing. It's a co-creation. Not every track's like that, but some of us are. And that means now I came out of that meeting, put in the Discord. If you have a panel idea that would be on gaming, go ahead and submit it through my thing and put gaming. I will copy it and I put it in an email and I'll shoot it to him. Right. And that'll be, not saying he'll take it, but that'll be an easy funneling of ideas. He's getting invited to our Discord so he can interact directly with people. And so he can come in and go, hey, I have a gaming track panel that is this. Any creators can help me. So we're opening up doors, and that's the key. And one of the last things I want to talk about on this application or this submission, there's a box that says, why do you want to be a part of the Dragon Con digital media track? Because I'm gonna be real. It has to be more than personal ambition. Because if I've done that, I made it. You have to want to give back to the community some way, somehow. And there's another one about what is Dragon Con missing besides yourself? Because everybody would like to be me. But that's another way of going, hey, I don't see any Pinterest panels. You know what? You don't. But that gives me an opportunity to go, could you do a Pinterest panel? You know, if that's the thing. Because let me tell you, I can only understand so many things. I don't Pinterest. I definitely don't X, tweet, whatever. I'm not going to funnel those panels. I'm going to funnel the things I do understand that I see a need for, like awesome women. Well, and as long as there are people there, which that one I know. This year, we're going to have, I think, 2 blurred panels, to be honest with you. We've got them submitted. So what are you going to say, Phil?
No. Exactly what you said. Like, it's not your response. Like, first off, as a track director, you've got too many things going on to be the one to build panels to fill time slots. Secondly, we don't ever have to worry about filling time slots because everybody's submitting so many wonderful panels. But like, it's not your job to build panels that people want to see. Like, if you want to see a panel about, like Charles said, X, and you have knowledge on X, that's your wake-up call to submit the panel to do it.
Yeah.
And then we can help you build it.
Now, how you present or say something is as important as what you're saying. We talked about the title, but I mentioned energy. And there's some that the title, it's not, I can't put my finger on it. The title's not what grabbed me, but something about the title made me interested. And it's just, I don't know, because I do believe how we do anything, how we do everything. And if you're writing something and you're feeling passionate about it, it comes through, at least to me. And when I look at the description, there's nothing definitive in the description. Go, oh yeah, this will be a great panel. But something about it went, I think I would like to see this. Let me try to get it into my schedule.
Well, it's just like every great book starts out with a very strong catch line, which is the opening line of a book, right? You got to have that.
It is.
You got to have that. That oomph right at the beginning of your description that leaves us wanting more without giving your stuff away for free.
That, and honestly, you can give it away for free to me, and I'll make sure to keep it to myself. But it might help me understand. It might help me help you. All right, so we talked about submitting a panel, but you can be a panelist, and how you legitimately with us do that. I can't. This one I can't speak to other cons on. All the other stuff about submitting panels, 100% other cons. I have dedicated my year to getting into a number of cons, and I said I want to speak 24 times, and that just means I get invited somewhere. So like when I was on with TV's Travis, he invited me on. That counts as a speaking gig. I'm pitching the panels, but they have to accept it and they have to invite me. Having a nice, tight, fully, clearly understandable, here's the pitch for the panel, but here's the long version of really what I'm going to bring to you. Let me show you the value. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but all of that will work. Being a panelist, I can only talk about my track. That's join the Discord. We have, I believe, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically a panelist room. We have, when I drop all the panels in that have been approved and say, here's the schedule, I'd say DM the moderator, contact the moderator. But that means you've got to be in Discord. I get it. You might be in a dozen Discords. You might be like Phil, just turn off notifications of everything. Like, hey man, when's the panel close? It closed last week, Phil. Get in the Discord.
No, I'm in there. I don't care. You can tag me if it's important. I'm not going to respond. People, even in the botch Discord, if you don't tag me, I'm not going to see it, and they know that. So like in the digital media track, if you want me to notice something or you want to talk to me, DM me or tag me in your post, or I'm never going to see it, nor will I care about it. But
I'm not gonna, right? But we've had years where you reached out to me and I just waited on you. And like, dude, you got a week. You're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because I don't play favorites. And like, no, it's in Discord. And I've literally said, look, asshole, it's in Discord. Hey, you're not special. Get in Discord. Yeah, you can say that on primetime TV.
Gee willikers.
Oh, jeez. Stupid. But the reality is, if you really want it, which he does. So those of us that create full time, I believe, maybe it's just me and you, I don't know, but I almost have this internal alarm. It goes, wait a minute. I really need to be checking in on this right now, because it should be about that time. And Phil pretty much almost always makes that. What?
No. I definitely didn't get reminded right now that I've got 2 weeks to submit something.
Yeah, but timing is there. But we attract that timing, right? Well, I'm whatever. But to be a panelist, you need to be in Discord. Now, how, Phil, should you prepare to be a good panelist?
Well, I'm going to break this up a little bit, because we're starting to sound like an NPR begging for money kind of segment here as we keep pitching this Discord over and over.
I thought we were pitching the swear jar over and over.
You get the CDs, you get the tote bag, you get the Discord. What makes a good panelist? To be honest with you, it's active listening. When you're up there with let's say 1 person to 4 people, what makes a good panelist is somebody who's going to engage with the other people on your panel, but not cut them off. Let them get their thoughts out, listen to what they're saying and process it, and then either contradict what they're saying or add on to it to bring your own point of view to what's going on. There's nothing worse than, somebody who rolls into a panel late, right? That makes a good panelist. Show that you actively want to be there by showing up on time. I have my own personal thing is if I'm not 30 minutes early for something, I am late for that thing. I can get down with 15, but I don't like to not be there to help my tech set up, do sound check for all the mics, make sure everybody has, we didn't do it last year, but water is ready for everybody, markers or pens to get everything set up. Know that you're live on Twitch the entire time when you are sitting up there. But being able to add something to a conversation, being able to interact with the audience appropriately, right? Or being able to read the room. And especially when you're getting questions from the audience, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You could get somebody with, really intelligent, well put together, constructive questions, or you can get red shirt guy from BlizzCon. It can go either way, but you have to know as a panelist how to handle both situations, right? You need to know how to, when they don't want to give up the mic, to make them give up the mic in a very polite kind of way, because you're still in that.
Well, you're also dabbling into moderation.
Correct,
too.
but also you as a person on a panel, you have a higher power structure than everybody else because you have a microphone in your hand. So you need to continue the panel on respectfully in that situation. But literally, like, it always comes down to this: when I go onto a panel, I put my phone away, because for that hour, that's not important. All of that stuff can wait, and whatever is, to the right of me is the most important thing that's going on. Because there is nothing more embarrassing than being up on a panel and having it thrown to you, and you look out to a crowd of 100 people, 120 people, and you weren't listening for the last 3 minutes, and now you were completely lost with your pants around your ankles.
I was king of that when we did Breaking the Panel. I'd cold throw to you and Klotz, and multiple like, yeah, thanks. It's like, I wouldn't like I knew you weren't paying attention. I just sense it's time to throw to you, and multiple, and yeah, no, it's training, right? But when you talk about being a panelist, sometimes you have to trust your leadership. And in this case, the moderator's role is to make sure it's a good flowing conversation, to make sure they step out and get, no controversy in the mic when I ask you not to say that kind of thing. Or one example is this guy wanted to read no kidding, wanted to read some kind of scientific dissertation at Wise and Nerdy when he was supposed to be asking a question. So he was talking, Susie took a breath and went, dude, that's awesome. Come up after the show and show it to us. And then I turned to where I wasn't even making eye contact, and I talked to Joe and just moved on with the show. But that is the role of a moderator, because as a panelist, you might be thinking, oh, I don't want to do that. You don't have to, but you can trust, or you should be able to trust your moderator. And we always do have people in the room like myself that can step in if needed.
Yeah. Concealed carry is what Charles is.
And to that end, okay, so how do you become a moderator? Well, first, you really need to show you know how to carry a conversation by being a panelist, right? I have taken, I'd say most of my moderators didn't come and say, hey, I want to be a moderator. They were panelists. I went, come on, I want you to moderate this panel. Tyra Burton, love her to death. She told me, I'm not a moderator. I'm like, don't, I used the F-bomb. I was like, don't tell me what you are. You're on my track. I got you. Trust me if you don't trust yourself. And sure enough, anybody who's seen her moderate, she's a fantastic moderator. And she was nervous, but it just took somebody believing in her and putting her in that position.
Well, it's like DMing, right? It's hard and scary the first. Well, I'm sure for Charles's partners, it's soft and scary, but it's something that you're not used to doing for the first time. But after you get that one soft, scary moment under your belt, you kind of get used to it, and you can just kind of ride that soft scariness.
All right,
for the rest of your life.
Get out of here. Now,
no, but seriously, like, yeah, moderating, like, it's very intimidating until you realize you're not doing anything differently than being a panelist, right? Yeah, it's bluechew.com/rockgod for all your hard situations. Moderating is literally just helping steer the conversation, or steer what your panel is about. For finding the stories, you moderated crazily. You wrote no notes. You just brought them in, and the way that's what I do. But that's how you moderate, right? And the way that you interview people, Charles, is my favorite way of having an interview, is where you're not asking questions, right? You have bullet points that you have in your head, but
Sure.
it's all about talking and literally pulling these great stories and information out of the person instead of just like um so I I hear you like chicken cutlets. That's cool, right? It's not the Chris Farley show with Paul McCartney. And that's what
Oh, we need to make a how to moderate panel using that video.
and that's why, you know, I enjoy the way that you moderate and that you interview people, because it's more compelling to sit there to hear somebody just have a normal conversation with somebody, right?
But that's not how you moderate, is it?
And well, no, it isn't. It isn't. But everybody has their own style, right? Because for
Exactly
me,
why I asked,
if
yes.
I have a panel of 4 people up there with me, right? My story is the least important one that I want to get out to the crowd, right? If it does come out, great. But those people sitting next to me are so much smarter and so much more talented than I am. And I want their voices to be heard and their stories to be heard. And then as they're telling their stories and bringing out their wisdom, that's where I can drop little hints and sprinkles of my own thing, right? And kind of just feed off one by one on that. It's not hard, but getting over that first hump is. And if you sat on a panel at any time during any kind of con, I know you have. I've got faith in you. So I hear you like
Well,
breathing oxygen.
yeah.
I have faith in you
Yeah.
that you can actually moderate. You just got to convince yourself that you can do it.
I actually have to stop myself from moderating when every once in a while I'm asked to be a guest on a panel at DragonCon, which if it fits my timetable and it fits my what I'd like to talk about, I will be more than happy to do that. But I honor the moderator and let them run the panel. But mentally, I am holding myself back because I hear something and it's just in me to do. I've done it for it's second nature to me. Now, that being said, to all my new moderators that I have coached, like Tyra, like Jenna Garrett, numerous others, I said, by all means, first off, number one rule, I'm not saying believe in yourself because imposter syndrome is going to kick in, but trust that I would never ask you to do something that I didn't know you couldn't do. And deep inside of you, you know, if I see it, that there's something there. Secondly, do whatever prep you need to do, right? If you need to have 5 to 10 questions bullet pointed, ready to go, cool. Most of the time with most of the time with the panelists that you'll have, because new moderators, I typically help them find the panelists. I pull it together, say, hey, I want you to do this because I think you talk my thing is, as a moderator, I think you speak very well on this topic. And I think you have the wherewithal to say, hey, let's make sure the person on the end who's very quiet and not just speaking up and fighting to talk gets a chance to talk. And so do whatever it takes for you. Some people, I think this was Jenna Garrett maybe said they had a notepad and they kind of wrote down everybody's name on the panel before it started. And they put a little hash or a mark next to it that said, hey, they said something. So they could look down and go, oh, Phil hadn't said anything yet. Hey, Phil, what do you think about that?
But also, as a moderator, you can pick where people sit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I normally do. If I am the moderator, I will get there early and then write everybody's names out on their whiteboards. And so it's already done, it's set in stone. But if I'm not the moderator on that panel, I will always sit on the far seat because I am an abrasive, loud Southern Irishman that will get my opinion out. And so nobody will be able to hide on the last seat of the panel. And it's kind of just something that I do as a panelist to make sure, like, hey, look, I'm not letting any of you hide up here. So I'm going to take this last seat. And I'll quip in every so often with a very dark joke that you'll have to think about. But then I'll bring it back in to the topic that we're talking about.
Yeah. And to that end, it depends on the topic as well. There are definitely some topics where you might need to have a structure. Okay, we're going to start with this thing here, and we're going to try to hit these topic areas. But you still, when you have a good conversation, it goes, Show me your hands, Phil. Show me your hands that you're not random kid typing this trailer stuff here.
I
Trick you
can't
with my
move this
lore.
one because it's slung, but
I don't see no sling on it.
it's
Sling blade.
it's a new slung. It's a new slung. It's made by Reed's Industry.
Sorry, there was an old joke that put it here from my favorite stalker. That might be Phil Keating's alter ego. We'll see. All right.
No. But what you were saying is prep accordingly, right? So for some panels that I've moderated, I don't know some of the people that are on the panel, so I like to do a powwow with everybody. I like to maybe set up a little bit of notes so people know like talking points that I hope to hit on. If I'm not the moderator, it all depends on the group that I'm in and how comfortable I am with the panel that I'm doing, right? If I'm not feeling comfortable and I don't know these people, I will ask a little bit more like, hey, what are we looking for and what are we looking to get across for this panel? Like what's the end game of this panel other than just talking about blank? But it's also up to me, if I am a moderator, to also give that courtesy. If I know the people that are there and I know them well, I can have a very casual conversation and kind of get everything across that we need to. Sometimes there's no prep whatsoever. It all depends on comfort level and the people that I'm dealing with. With the, what was it? It was the imposter syndrome thing, right? About a month before we went on stage, I just asked for bullet points on what everybody was hoping to get out. For the roast of McFall, we had meetings because there was a bunch of people on that panel that I don't know, right? And I'm not comfortable writing jokes about people that I've never talked to. So, like, it's all about how you're feeling, and your feelings are always correct. If you're put onto a panel or you have a panel that you're moderating that you don't know of, trust your gut, trust your instincts, talk to these people, right? For Ask a Pokedexpert, for the first 2 years, me and Anthony had a side conversation, and he would tell me what the Pokemon was before we went live so I can do a little research on it. This year, he told me to go love myself and that we had to do everything blind, right? Which was how him and Mike always did it. But he was like, no, dude, we've been doing this for 2-3 years now. You're good. You don't need that prep anymore. Go. We're fine. We've got a good show going on. Like, you don't need.
That falls into the trust yourself and trust the process.
And you know
trust
what?
your team. Yeah.
When he said it to me, I was like, you're right. Like, I know what I'm doing. We don't need to do this. Like Bill O'Reilly said, screw it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Yeah. In Discord, every panel that gets approved gets its own chat room with the moderator and the panelists so that they can have specific conversations about that panel. So you could ask, hey, I like to prepare things, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it's just not a whole lot of interaction. Sometimes it's a lot of interaction. And to that end, you talked about how I go blind in a lot of situations. I just walk in. That's how I love the chaos of that. I love the energy of that. However, do you think I did that with Katie Sackhoff at Atlanta Comic-Con?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I went in and had my little book and I wrote things, at least some basics of if this thing goes bad, being that audience isn't interacting or that they're asking things that don't need to be asked, where do I steer the conversation? So I had some prep on Katie. When I sat with Adam Baldwin at Atlanta Comic-Con a couple years ago, same thing. Went and had some basics, did some research, because not only do I want to shine when I'm sitting with a celebrity. My goal with any interview, anything I do, is have somebody at least once in that interview go, I mean, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me something like that or made me think. And you have to do some research in some cases to do that. And then you can practice and refine it to Ming Chen. Are you piecing out on me? What? All right. Ming Chen just literally showed up 5 minutes, wasn't planned for it. It's just gonna be me and Phil. And he showed up 5 minutes before and sit on down, buddy. But I was already familiar with him. I already knew some of the stuff, and I very quickly looked up what is he working like a Wikipedia. What is he working on right now? So if I needed to, one, everybody likes to feel special. So when you say, "Hey, here's your pet project I heard about," they feel special and then get to share it. It's just little things like that. But be
Same, right?
prepared. Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared, right? Each time that we did those finding the stories at 5:30 in the morning or whenever we did them, I didn't know who we were having on until they sat down, right? I didn't know until we hit that room, but
Yeah.
that's what I did, right? I pulled up anything, their IMDb, their Wikipedia, even their Instagram feed to see kind of what they're about, and then rolled off of that. It's about being able to change in the moment and react, right?
And to that end, if you need to, I didn't start doing panels that way. I built my content and knew where I wanted to lead the conversation and had to trust that I could carry the conversation if I had to. It's never a fun place to be for an hour. I mean, it is for me. I love talking and whatever else to shut up and let me just preach, but that's whatever. But be prepared to take that list of 10 questions. And when you ask that first one to get it started, conversation takes off and they're talking to each other and you come up with a new question in the moment. And then an audience member stands up and asks something and you throw out the other 9 because that's how it goes. Trying to force it is a problem. But honestly, Phil, I want to move on to one last thing before we get out of here. I know we're running a little long, but people are interested, and I think it's important things to put out there.
Aaron says it's still soft, so we don't have to worry about how long we go.
It can be long and soft. I hate you so much.
Like a donkey.
I hate you so much. This is the kind of chaos that you have to throw out the agenda on sometimes. But honestly, when it comes down to it, trust those that you're around. Now, again, you have to know the room, but at DragonCon Digital Media Track, if you got past me saying, yeah, this is a panel, or you got past the moderator say, yeah, I believe that you'll bring value to this panel, all you need to bring is yourself to the table and share your story. Jeff
Burns?
Randall,
Jeff Randall,
MCU cast. You may remember him.
Heard
you
of
may
him.
not. He was on. They were on
Friends.
Yeah, that's it.
We are.
Oh, you were friends. Like,
yeah,
no,
I'm
he's
friends
on
with
Friends.
Jeff.
Yeah. All right. So MCU cast was fairly new. He came without his partner that year to DragonCon. I think I shadow director that year, and I saw him, and somebody had fallen off the panel. It's about doing content about TV and media, and I went, "Hey, man." And technically, he called me this. I mean, I didn't pay anybody, so I couldn't force him, but he was on my network. He looked up to me like I was his boss a little bit. I went, hey, I need to go sit on this end of the panel and talk about MCU cast. Like, what? No, I was like, trust me and shut up and do it. We had that relationship with him, and he did. And sure enough, halfway through the panel, somebody went, what happens when you're doing content on a TV show and they take that winter break? Nobody else did content like that but him.
But
he was the only one who could answer. And he came off that going, oh my God, man, you're right. It was so good because all he did, long story short, I knew he would do what he could do, which is bring yourself to the table and add what you can add, no matter what. When Phil talked about the imposter syndrome panel and how it had different things, you don't have to know everybody because Phil and I can go to the same restaurant and taste something and think 2 different things about it because everybody's a little bit different.
Yeah, Arby's is terrible. But you love it. You love it.
I like my Arby's. All right.
Yeah,
I like my Subway too. Tony P. can
God.
Eat a foot long.
No, it's awful.
No, you're awful.
It's yoga mat.
Well, okay, you are definitively awful. But beyond that, all right. So one big last thing is tech, right? Most panels just need a microphone. We got you. Oh, my last thought about trusting DragonCon Digital Media Track. Okay. It is a community. Yeah, I'm the face of the track. Yes, it is my responsibility to make sure the program shows up, do all the things I need to do according to DragonCon to get it right and get it ready to go and put on a good show. And then I need to keep it safe and make sure we're following the rules and everybody has a safe space and nobody is having any issues. That is the job. But the community builds that track. You submit the content, you get together and make the panels, you come together and do the most, in my mind, the most beautiful magic in the world, which is co-creating something that never could have come together by ourselves. And it's amazing.
And my favorite thing to see every year is the faces that I see in the crowd that year are then the faces that I see on the panel the next year.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
literally my favorite. It's my favorite
I
thing.
agree.
Man.
I love that. And along that line of trust, that means you can mostly, I say, I don't trust anybody 100%, just to be honest. I just don't. Mostly trust the people you're on the panel with. And you can definitely trust the community that's in that room, because even if they're attendees, most of them are there with a good heart. Most of them are there with the same intent that you are. I want to hear about this. I want to share this experience. And the community will protect you. Somebody on that table will lift you up. Somebody on the tech team will say, we got this, it's okay. Somebody in the audience will help guide something away. We have built a, for lack of better words, a safe space to create, to even say controversial things and have them discussed versus having a fight. So if you can't believe in yourself, but you still have that desire to get out there, and you can't trust in me, but you still have a desire to get out there, the last thing you can trust in is a community. And if you can't do that, you can't do anything. You have to trust at some point that that bungee cord is going to hold. And at the end of it, you're going, oh my God, that was a thrilling ride. You got a bad dark joke that we got to think about now?
Nope.
No? All right.
Nope.
So
It was too pretty to ruin with my crappy humor.
so am I, yet you do it all the time.
Well,
so last thing I definitely want to hit on that you brought up before the show, Phil, which is great. I hadn't thought about this one, but it's a very important thing, is tech needs. If you have, we have a monitor, we have a laptop that you can plug in a USB to, we have microphones, we can record everything, we can broadcast it for you, you can get a copy later. But if you need to, we had this issue where it wasn't communicated clearly to me, and so it got scheduled inaccurately because the communication broke down somewhere. The Ask a VTuber wasn't Ask a VTuber. It was how to be a VTuber. And he was wanting to be in the G7 behind something, basically use that room to do his thing. And G6, where the panel was going to have the VTuber thing on the screen. That was not clearly communicated. And it was last minute before I found out about it. I was like, yeah, no, we have a panel in that room. There's no moving things, period. Sorry. And he pivoted. He was great about it. And it turned into Ask a VTuber. But Phil, you mentioned you last year with Botched wanted to run a 10-minute, you get 60 minutes typically. You want to run a 10-minute video, but what did you do?
Here's the thing. With any kind of panel, if you have a bizarre request, if you have a strange idea that you want to work, and your panel is very much in tuned to this bizarre idea, you can't bring it in those 15 minutes before your panel starts.
I mean, you can, but your odds of it happening are, who knows?
People have, but there's no way you're going to, hey, y'all, real quick, I'm going to get corporate on you. Don't piss off your janitors because they are the ones that keep your workplace clean. Don't piss off your techs, for they are the ones that make your panels clean. If you have this idea that you want to do, and like Charles said, these panels are approved in March, April, right? You have until we go live on Labor Day weekend. We have months. Bring this idea to your techs. Bring this idea on how you want to do something so that you're not surprising your techs last minute with this concoction of an idea. Like Charles said, Botched had a 10-minute video that we wanted to play after the room was full of people. I had to make sure that my tech and my sound guy knew what they were doing. I had to make sure that there was televisions in there. I had to make sure that there was wires long enough for everything to reach. Like, these are things that just don't happen, especially if you have a strange request like I do, man. So if you have this idea, you're put into your own Discord room, and the techs are in there with you, right? A lot of these rooms will stay quiet, but that is the most perfect time to talk to your techs and to get these things straightened out as cleanly as possible, right? Because as you get there, things are going to go haywire and everyone's going to be running around like chickens. But as long as your techs know going in that they have this amount of time to make this thing happen, they're not as stressed out as they would be if you're like, hey, look, I need this camera projected onto that screen and I need the camera to be hovered here. I didn't bring anything with me. Just make it work.
This is rushing. Yeah, no, you're on that panel in 5 minutes, buddy. Done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important.
But-
like our volunteers and our techs are the reason that all this runs. And it runs smoothly as it does because we have a very open and honest communication with these wonderful humans to make sure that these panels go exactly how we want them to do. So, like, personally, I get with my sound guy and my tech around July, August, in the beginning of August at the latest, just so that we know that we're on the same page. And then we check in every so often just to be like, we still good? Yeah, we good. We still good? Yeah, we good. So that when we do get there to set up, everybody has their own specific jobs and that there's no running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
And also, if you bring in your own tech, we can easily, typically adapt it to the situation. Sketching Shakespeare, I never got any tech requests from them, never got any tech needs. And when I walked past the room, I'm like, where'd all that come from? Because they came prepared with a top-down camera. They probably communicate with Scott a little bit, to be honest, because I no longer do the tech. I mean, I stay at the higher level of making the flow happen on everything and fixing the problems as needed. But so that's fine. I didn't know, but it wasn't in the request. It wasn't in how they pitched it. But yet they came with their own stuff. So they knew, they already were familiar with the basics of you can hook up to a TV for sure. You can hook up to a sound to a laptop or an iPod or a phone or whatever. And of course, you can bring USB drive for us to play music or something else for you. That last minute being 20 minutes before the panel will be great. But that last minute is fine. And they set up their own thing and it ran very well. To your point, you got with your own tech, but essentially, even though Scott is one of the volunteers, in that moment, he was your tech. You essentially brought in your own trusted tech that we also trusted, and you worked hard. And the room was full about 8 minutes before the show started. So you went ahead and ran the video, and it was a very great video. I very much enjoyed that video.
He Who Is Steve. It's at youtube.com/He Who Is Steve. The co-star, lover, YouTuber, He Who Is Steve.
So, all right, let's give some last pieces of advice on how to get involved with your favorite con. One last thing before we give the last advice. We touched on going to other tracks. There's two things I think you need to do personally to get on other tracks. Add content, number one, not pitching, but go to a panel that you find interesting on their track, stand up at a microphone or depending on the room, raise your hand and ask interesting questions that you really want to know about. Or if you're like me, sometimes there's a question that they're wanting to talk about that's just right on the edge, but nobody's asking it. So you ask that question as a toss up softball and they knock it out of the park. That's even better because a lot of times people will realize, the panelists kind of will realize what you did, or if they don't, they'll come up and thank you so much. That was a great question. And then after you've added content to that panel by asking something fun, something good, something entertaining, you make sure you go up. Every room has its own table and somebody's sitting at it typically. And you go up to them and ask them, you say, hey, introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Charles McFall. I would love to do some content on your track next year. Here's what I'd like to, who are you the person I need to talk to? And a lot of times they'll go, if they aren't, they'll steer you to that person, and you make sure you get their direct email, but you make an impression is really what I'm saying. And you get your face in front of them, but you add some help, you add some content, and you don't sell what you're trying to do next year. You just introduce yourself and say, hey, after the con, when you've rested, is it okay if I pitch you on this, or what's your process?
No. And also like, I hate to say it, but especially at Dragon Con, like a lot of conversations that are important happen outside of 6 and 7. Like that meeting space outside
Yeah.
between panels. Yeah. A lot of things happen outside in those panels. And I'll tell people that come up after panels like, oh man, I want to talk about this. Great. Let's talk about this. But let's get out and go into the hallway, because be respectful for the panel
Yeah, we
that's
gotta
coming
flip the
in
room
behind
and
you, right?
yeah.
Because they got to flip the room. But a lot of important conversations have happened out there in that shitty basement, in the smokiness that is the Party Joe's or whatever the hell it's called in the back.
Yeah, Party Joe. Well, when Chris Wilson's there, it's definitely called Party Joe's.
Party Joe's. Oh,
He-
Party
he-
Jose's.
Every time I see him walking down the hall, he's got 4 or 5 drinks from Trader Joe's that he's taking around. None of them are for me, by the way, which it won't guarantee you a panel, but if you want me to love you forever, bring me some scotch.
Scotch
or
and Dr.
coffee.
Pepper.
Scotch,
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper, coffee, depending on the time of day. Coffee's good any time of the day.
Just
Dr.
blend all three
Pepper.
together. It's called a Charles McFall speedball.
It's called Charlie. Is it a Charlie Brown? Is it a Charlie Brown?
It's a Chuck Brown.
Oh. So, Phil.
Yes, sir.
If anybody takes anything away, what's a piece of advice from you personally about how to get connected or get involved in your favorite con?
Find what you're passionate about and bring it to the table. Right? Like Charles said before, he's had multiple panels pitched to him that's almost the same topic. But if your passion comes through with your pitch, your elevator pitch, and your snappy title, that's all that matters. Be passionate about what you want. Find the hole that you can fill that's not there. If there's a topic that you want to see, that you're like, oh Jesus, there's no LGBTQ plus panels on this whole track. Why is that not there? I'm part of that community and I'm upset that there's no panels. Great. Charles isn't part of that community. Pitch that panel, right? You'll have more input and more knowledge to bring there than Charles will. Get your feet wet, get inside the community, get your name heard, and literally like Charles was saying, come out, like talk to us about this was great, this is wonderful, I can't wait to get my feet dirty or my hands wet next year, and take advantage of the takeovers, the take homes, the
all right, I'm not gonna do
doggy
autopilot,
bag.
but you give me something better. The test panels.
That's so dumb. Yeah,
you're so dumb.
We'll workshop it, but take advantage of that time, because you don't know when you're going to get that time again, right? It's better to, if you got a great idea, test run it in front of people live, because there's no difference than doing things live here on the internet than there is doing live in person. In fact, doing it live in person is a little bit easier than doing things live on the internet, because people are anonymous and can say terrible things on the internet when people probably won't say that to your face in galley 6 and 7. But probably I'll be there. I might think it. We'll see if I say it. No, but literally, like, get out there and just try it. And get constructive criticism from your friends and family, and then mold it, and then bring it back to the submissions. I know we're running out of time to submit.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
No, we're running out of time to submit. But if you don't put it in, it ain't gonna happen.
Bingo. Yeah, I was gonna say something along those lines. So what I will say then is help others be awesome. Right, that's an easier way than to say it than to say, well, I want to put my thing out there and I've got to believe in myself, like Charles says, and I got to just do it like Phil says, and all this other stuff. Think of it as when you sat in that audience, the psychological automatic thought process is they're the experts, I'm not. Excellent. Yeah,
be excellent to each other.
Exactly. Be excellent to each other. But understand that when you sit at that table, everybody sees you the same way because they're listening, and that's key. So ultimately, if you want to get involved, start where you can start. I know we've talked about the Discord a lot, but do that. And let me I just want to say one more thing.
You'll
Listen to
get
me.
the CDs. You'll get the tote bag. You'll get the coffee. But most of all, you'll get the Discord over at Linktree/DC Digital Media Track.
You'll get my family's
You'll
ancient
get-
secret recipe for Charlie Brown.
And the most important thing you'll get is you'll get your voice heard over at Linktree/DC Digital Media Track.
There you
Dude,
go.
like, to be honest with you, I mute all my Discords, especially the DC Digital Media Track.
Especially.
But if you are going in blind, there is, I hate this, there is an actual community for you. Like, I've joined a lot of Discords and I hate most of them. And this is probably top 7 Discords that I'm part of because there is a home for everybody. There's people that talk about anime. There's people that talk about D&D. There's people that talk about, Leonard Kenny or whatever the hell you nerds talk about. I don't know. I don't pay attention in there.
Sure.
But it really is a good place full of good people that really, the main thing about the Linktree/DC Digital Media Track Discord link that you can now just continuously type in over and over. That's linktr.ee/DC Digital Media Track. Is that everybody is there for one reason, and it's for the health of this track itself at DragonCon. Like, literally, nobody is in there wanting anything else. And so, yeah, we might be all from different walks of life, but the one thing that we can all, group around is that this is great, but we want it to be better. And the people that are going to make it better are inside this community.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep y'all muted.
But you listen when you're at
But
the
I
call.
listen when I am dinged, I will listen.
There you go. Dude, instead of us talking about the different things and places you can find us, let's talk about the thing we both love. tinyurl.com/likenbook. That's Lycan, Solomon's Odyssey. I got my jersey on right here. That link I made tonight, and it can be lowercase, it can be uppercase, it doesn't matter. I tested it. But that tinyurl.com/likenbook will take you to the Kickstarter that Phil and I both are on, and we both are helping our friend Dennis Robinson push us. I'm an executive producer on that book, and I get credit in that every time. You're a producer on that book, I do believe.
Of course.
We put our own money into it as well, and we'd love for you, if you like werewolves and you like mediocre stories. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love actually this story, but it's like in Solomon's Odyssey. It's one of the most original werewolf stories I've personally read, and you get to see me die in multiple books.
All right, so with Lycan Book, you can just literally go to lycanbook.com and it will bring
you
to Kickstarter.
Cool.
He is about 75% way through. In just the first 2 weeks. We did in March because his birthday is March 31st, so it'd be a nice way to celebrate his birthday, even though I'm pretty sure we're going to fucking fund. Yeah, swear jar, suck it. We're going to fund before then. We're at 77, if not 78% of the way there already, with 18 days to go. Lycanbook.com. It's like Gilgamesh plus HP Lovecraft, I think, is the way that he's
what he's phrasing.
Is what he's saying right now for part 3. If you missed parts 1 and 2, there are options in the Kickstarter for you to get both of those books.
Man, some of this art is so good.
The art is really phenomenal, but the fact that we came out of the canon so quickly, and just we're hitting 78% in the first 2 weeks, and I will say that we did make Kickstarters projects that we love, which is
nice.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we're happy about that. So support Dennis. The best thing that you can do for Dennis to say happy birthday is to back his Kickstarter. And then we have a lot of stretch goals just waiting to be unlocked. So the best way to do that is over at lycanbook.com.
Absolutely. And I love getting my jerseys every year.
That's a cool jersey. That's a good hockey
It is.
jersey.
Yeah, this is the
It's
first
not
this
my
year.
favorite.
This year's is
Can I
honestly,
show
I
you
think
my
this year's gonna
favorite
be my
real
favorite.
quick? Like, if you're gonna wear a hockey jersey, can I put a hockey jersey on real quick? It has nothing to do with Dennis or anything, and it's
No,
not.
I'm sure it's some sports ball BS.
No, no,
All right,
no, no, no,
whatever.
no, no, no. It's not. But it actually ties
Hurry.
into it. Dennis got me this for Christmas, so
All right, let me
it's pretty
see.
dope.
Hey, Vito. Yeah. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah. Okay. If you're part of the Patreon, patreon.com/Hivehead Studios, you might get to hear the show that Dennis and I do, it produces every week. That is like and subscribe. Planet Express. Okay, that's a great job. That is a good
So
job.
it's got the year that the show premiered for Futurama.
Okay.
And the name on the back.
Good news.
Good news, everyone.
That is great. But yeah, Kevin Cafferty brings out. So I made that pun on the show just goofing one day. So Dennis calls the Patreon. Yeah, I was.
No,
I was like, Dennis, look, you're so stupid. You should call this like and subscribe because it's a podcast.
Is such a Southern thing. Just goofing. Just goofing. You know what? I was just goofing.
Oh,
just goofing.
But yeah, so if you're on Patreon/Hivehead Studios, you'll get an audio update almost every week. That's Dennis and I talking about the cons that he goes to and the ins and outs of the business of it. Some stories about his electric truck. I mean, all kind of stuff. It is called LYCAN, like and subscribe. And yeah.
And he's not just doing small cons. He did MagFest this year.
Yep.
He was just at Awesome Con last week. He's got a new con this week, where I don't know, but you can definitely follow him at World's Most OK's DM on all social media and figure out where he's going. But like, man, we're there. Yeah. We're right there. So let's get him over the hump so that we can at least see some of these stretch goals get unlocked.
He wanted me to record with him this week, and I thought I would have time. Usually it's Sunday afternoons, but he was at a con last weekend. He'll be at a con this weekend. And my week filled up super fast. So, and honestly, the only time I had to record now in retrospect was last night when y'all record botched. So,
oh well, you should have recorded. You should have had him on here instead of me, but.
You're more entertaining, boo-boo.
I know. I'm well under. Come on, he's my hetero life mate, Silent Dennis. Like I understand.
Silent Dennis. But I do want to leave everybody with the words: "You got this. You're gonna be awesome. Trust the process. It's gonna rock." Tune in next week. We're gonna have some more awesome guests and bring your questions back and come take over the show.